Oh, pardon me. Hi there everybody, how are you today? It's your friendly Dracula's daughter again, as per, chatting away, some crap and inane stuff. But anyway, such a grey, awful day today. We're going to be having a really bad storm coming our way apparently over the next 48 hours. So batten down the hatches everybody, keep yourselves safe, and if the weather is as bad as they say it's going to be, don't go out unless you have to, isn't it? So make sure everything is safe, that you are safe and all your animals are safe and everything, and your family and whatnot. So it's got bloody dog hairs everywhere, unbelievable. Anyway, so last video we talked about, well, I talked about, not we, I talked about sexual identities and just a couple of the different ones that there are, and I was talking about labelling ourselves and everything, and putting ourselves into little pigeonholes, which personally I think is wrong, because our sexuality and our sexual identity is only a tiny part of who we really are. As I said, my name's Tony. I'm studying psychology, and well, I've just finished one course on psychology. I'm starting criminal psychology in October, which I'm looking forward to. So watch out, all of you out there. I might be coming after you. No, but anyway, so like I said, so that is a part of that. That is me. That I'm Tony. I'm a student doing criminal psychology. I live on my own with 2 dogs and a cat. I'm 54 years old. Oh, and I'm a trans woman. That is it. You know, so it's not, oh look, there's Tony who's a trans woman. It happened years ago. Oh gosh, in the early 80s, it was like, oh, this is Tony, he's gay. And a couple of my then friends would introduce me like that in the early 80s, going, oh, this is Tony, he's gay, and it was like a big thing. And it was a big thing for them, pardon me, not for me. I never had my sexual identity is for me alone, not for the whole wide world out there. It doesn't matter, you know, in the scheme of things. You know, it's like, we'll all be dead one day, and once we're dead, it won't matter, will it? So all that matters is our legacy, what we leave behind, and our attitude towards other people. Not towards the sexuality. I think it's wrong judging people by their sexuality, and it still happens. It happened in the 80s very, very badly towards gay people. Not so much towards the trans community then, because it was very, very quiet, it was very low, but definitely on the gay communities, like being beaten up and threatened with knives and guns and whatever. So yes, I was chased twice by a knife-wielding maniac, wanted to stab me. One of them because I thought I was messing around with his girlfriend, of all things, and so he beat the crap out of me. It took about an hour, and then I just finally decided enough's enough, so I kicked him away from me and I ran. And as he ran after me, and he was calling me, he was trying to be nice, and he had a big knife in his hand, and I didn't realise, but I had this long jacket thing, and he'd ripped it as I was running away from him again for the second time. He'd ripped it to shreds, and that could have been my back. And the second time was, it was on Boxing night at a friend's house with his boyfriend, and I went into the kitchen to get a drink, and his boyfriend grabbed me and said, oh, I really like you, blah, blah, blah. And I said, no. I said, you can't. I said, because you're with my friend. And we sat there, and 10 minutes later, the boyfriend walked out of the kitchen and stabbed his boyfriend, my friend, in the side right in front of me with the bread knife. Just went that. I was so shocked. It really was. There was about 5 of us there altogether, 6 of us, and we just all ran away, and the police were involved in everything. And it was just, thankfully, my friend survived. And you know, it's bad enough being stabbed, but he survived, and you know, he didn't need any stitches or anything like that. I was just 24 hours in hospital just to keep an eye on him, and thankfully the boyfriend was arrested for attempted murder. And it's just, you know, it's in things like that in the 80s was kept quiet because it was in the gay community, and it was like, we won't make a fuss of it because in the gay community, so therefore not deserved, but therefore that's the kind of thing that happens in the gay community, if you know what I mean. So that was the attitude in them days. I remember that time when I got beaten up, the policeman took me to the hospital, and the first thing he asked me was, "You haven't got AIDS, have you?" And that was the mentality of people in the 80s and early 90s, and I'm glad that that has changed, and people are more positive now. But you know, in those days, you just took it with a pinch of salt, and woe betide you if you became a snowflake, as people tend to call people that get offended very easily these days. You couldn't be offended, because people wouldn't give you the right to be offended. A hate crime happens, but it happened even more then, and the police wouldn't do anything about it. It was like, well, it's your fault. And I was asked once, why did you tell me you were gay? And I'm thinking, well, for one, because I lived as a gay boy. For one, it was very obvious, for one, and for two, we were just talking, and I said about a boyfriend and things, and you know, so that was how I was in my teenage years. Well, in my teenage years, it was, oh God, you're not gay, are you? I don't like gay people. That was my mother, and I'm there going, you don't like me anyway. So, you know, there's no change there, is there? So, I swear. But anyway, so yes, so we hid our labels in the 80s and early 90s. Until I moved to London, and well, I was in London in the 80s, it was still quite bad then, but it was more tolerated. It was more tolerated than accepted in the 80s and early 90s. Now I think it's accepted more than tolerated. Some people might tolerate it, but more do accept our gender and our sexuality more now than used to be. But I still don't see why we should label ourselves, because society does that anyway. So why should we? If this is what I just don't understand. For everything I read about being labelled and things, and oh, I'm gay, or I'm bi, or I'm trans, and everything. That's fine. Be that, but why corner yourself, and why pigeonhole yourself into that specific pigeonhole? Sexuality is supposed to be fluid, so they say these days. So why label yourself into a corner? People say, "Oh, I'm non-binary" and whatever, but we are all binary, I think. But it's just, you know, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm not a GP. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a geneticist or anything like that. So I can't possibly say anything about that. But we are who we are, and we're all individuals, and I think we should stop being hung up on our sexuality and concentrate more on the good that we can do in life. It seems to me that people these days want to shock and offend people all the time by coming out with stuff, and at the end of the day, what will happen is we'll just become so blasé about it all that it just wouldn't matter anymore. And I think that would be a good thing, really. It's not being blasé about it, but not worry about our sexuality, our sexual identity, because surely that is between you and your partner, you and your prospective partner, and when you go out and everything, you know. So it's nothing to do with your everyday life, your work and everything. Some say that being female, you get treated differently than from being male, and I have noticed that since I've had my surgery and everything. It's and it is really weird. It really is weird. Strange, not weird. It's strange. The attitude other people have towards you once, well, towards me anyway. After I had my gender reassignment, I don't know, so I can't explain it. It's like people treat me softly, more softly now than they used to, you know. So no aggression, no assertiveness, anything like that towards me, like they used to be. It's like, oh, you're gay, so you're down there kind of attitude. But now, because I'm trans, it's like, oh, I have to be careful what I say to you, which I think is wrong, you know. So it's, and this is one of the reasons why I'm doing these videos, is to show people that I've got my wrong glasses on. Yeah, I've got my wrong, never mind. No, I thought I must be tired. Things are being a bit blurry. These are my in-between glasses. But anyway, so going back to the reason why I'm doing this video is to show people that trans people aren't horrible. We aren't ogres. We aren't all political. We aren't like demanding to be treated a certain way and demanded to be talked a certain way and everything. That's not me at all. If you like me, you like me. If you want to treat me with respect, that's entirely up to you. If you treat me with respect, I'll treat you with respect. If you don't, I won't. Simple as that, you know. So I don't want preferential treatment because I'm trans. There's nothing to do with it. I'm a human being. I'm a person, and treat me as such, you know. So not, oh, you have to be treated better because you're trans. I was actually told a couple of years ago by somebody who works at the local council, said, oh, why don't you go and get a council apartment, a council flat? They'll work out cheaper for you, blah blah, and you will jump up the top of this. Hello, little birdie, little spooky, hello, little spooky. You will be towards the top of the list straight away because you're trans, and use your trans situation. And I'm there going, no, why should I? I've never ever used my mental health nor my being trans to get through in life. I get through stuff, even though it's not a lot at the moment, but I get through life. Oh, this is the baby one. Oh, it's come out, mummy. Hello, you. Are you the one that came to the house? You are, aren't you? I've always, you know, done things off my own back without resorting to using my disability or my gender identity, because that doesn't matter. That is just a small part of me. You know, it's everything else about me is much more than my sexual identity, and what I'm trying to say, and that's for all of us. That is for all of us, and of course, forcing one's sexual identity onto others that don't even understand is a losing battle at the end of the day, because we shouldn't force anything on anyone. It's like, I don't believe that we should force religion on anybody. Force others' ideals on you know, force your ideals onto other people, because we have our own minds. We make up our own minds, and that's how it should be. Oh, pardon me, I just had lunch and this just keeps repeating. I do apologise. Isn't it awful? I'm so rude, absolutely horribly rude. How dare that? But anyway, it's okay. There's a pied wagtail on my fence there feeding its baby. It's the baby you can hear going squeaking in the background there. How lovely. Gorgeous, yeah. So the parents there, the pied wagtail and the baby. Oh, there you go, feeding. Oh, isn't that lovely? Isn't that gorgeous? Oh. See, Mother Nature at its best, there I see. But anyway, going back to what I was saying, so like, no, try not to force your sexual identity onto other people and try and force them to understand. It's like, we need to learn together, because being trans is not something that you learn from the word go. It's an ongoing, like myself, for instance, I had to learn to act a certain way. I had to learn to be a certain way. I had to learn how to put makeup on. I had to learn what kind of clothing suited me the best. And I had to do that later in life, not early in life, you know. So I didn't have anyone to help me learn all that, so I had to do it myself. So I didn't force it on anyone. People will say, well, you walking out the house like that forces onto the people. No, it doesn't, because I'm still doing me, and by doing me, I'm not forcing myself on anyone. It's like, if they want to get to know me, they know me, they get to know me, they come and talk to me. And I get this all the time from people. It's like, oh, but you're lovely for a trans woman, Tony. And my question is why? Because they have spoken to trans people before, trans women before, and they've been awful because of the questions that your normal everyday person wants to ask, because that's how they learn. And it's up to me as a trans woman to help people learn and try to understand the process and why I'm trans. It is difficult to explain in words why I'm trans. It's just one of those awful, it's not awful anymore, but going through it for 48 years of my life was awful, pretending to be someone I'm not. That was awful. But you know, and people want to know about trans, about being trans, but they're too scared to ask. And I get that all the time, and they're saying, "Oh, but you're okay, Tony," and they go, "Of course, you know." So if you want to ask questions about what I've been through, more than welcome to, you know. So there are certain questions I won't answer, and if I think that they're getting a bit too much, I'll say, "Oh, okay, calm your tits, love," you know. So sorry, that's my favourite. Calm your tits. But anyway, that is my favourite quotation of the day, I think. But yes, so you know, so I'll answer any questions anybody has, and you know, about the struggles I've been through as a boy and as a girl, and everything else. Today I was going to talk about mental health issues, which has nothing to do with trans issues, but I was going through my psychology books, and there was hardly anything there about borderline personality disorder and PTSD. There was a little bit, but it didn't cover it enough, I didn't think, for me to talk about on video. Even though I suffer from both of them, I am in no means cognizant of what it all is, because it's everything like that, you know, so affects people in different ways, and so what I go through is different from the next person who goes through the same illnesses as I have, same mental health issues as I have. But anyway, so that's by the by, isn't it? So just talking about trans and being yourself. So yeah, the motto of this, the moral of this video is to not force yourself onto others. And it is so hard, because I've said this before, once you come out to yourself by being trans, it's like you just want it, oh, bang, there it is, and treat me like this straight away. And I've spoken to people, and they get really upset by people not treating them the way that they want to be treated off the bat. And my answer to that is, you have to remember that the people around you have known you as one gender, i.e. as a boy, for say how many years. It's like with me, I have people in my life which I haven't seen for decades, and they still think of me as a boy, because that's who I was the last time I saw them. And I respect that, because they haven't seen me like this. I haven't been there. I haven't been to see them like this and everything, you know. So so I'm not going to bite their heads off and saying, oh, no, you have to call me she, you have to call me her and everything. But, you know, if they haven't seen me in the flesh like this, how can they? How can I expect them to do that? Even though people say, well, it's respect. And so, of course it's respect, but it's also respect. It's also a mutual respect, to respect how they see me and how they think. And I'm talking bull again, aren't I? But hey ho, that's what gets me going, see. You see, it's like my mind just jumps from one thing to another, one back, bim bam, and everything, and I have to get everything out in case I forget it all. It's just really awful. Pardon me, it's like I do remember things, and I've said this before, I remember majority of my life from the age of 2.5, but sometimes I get like, it's called a fog, like a fibro fog, and I forget even the simplest words, and it is awful. Then other times my brain is just so full, like I said before. So can you imagine, you know, it's bad enough you lot watching me for 25 minutes on YouTube, but can you imagine that voice, this voice here, in your head 24/7, can't sleep with it because going and the ideas, and it's just unbelievable. There's so many things that I want to do, but my mind just races all to bam. Overactive imagination. It really is overactive imagination, and I should talk about that on my next video, because we're hypervigilant. That's the word I was looking for. Hypervigilant. We shall talk about that. But basically, I'll just talk about it now. Actually, yes, why not? Hypervigilant is like, you know, so we all have this response called fight or flight response. If we think, you know, we're going to be in some form of danger, it's like, you can hear that dog barking in the background. It's none of mine. It's another dog. You know, thinking, oh my gosh, is that dog going to attack me? And you just think, oh, right, shall I just stand still, or shall I run away? And then afterwards, you just all calm down, and it's like that and whatever, and you're fine, you're back to normal. Whereas hypervigilance is basically you're on that fight or flight mode 24/7, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it manifests in pain throughout the body, and that's one part of fibromyalgia. And it's like hypersensitivity as well, hypervigilance, hypersensitivity to light and sound. Is that sometimes I can't even, the TV's down really low at the moment in the lounge, and it was still annoying me before I come out here to do this video. And sometimes the sunlight, it's like you've seen me with my sunglasses on, and because even though I'm in the shade, the sun is just, well, you've seen me squinting like that, and sometimes I don't even use the main light in the house. Well, in the bedroom hardly ever. I think once every blue moon, but it's usually the lamp, and it's a diffused light anyway in all my lamps. And in the lounge I use the main light, but it's got a diffused light bulb on there, so it's very low light bulb, so you know, so but things like that. And if you live with that 24/7, and it manifests itself through pain from your head to your toe, and it's literally what I was explained to the other day was, it's like your average person has a headache, and the brain synapses go, all right, headache, pain, and then, you know, the nerves in that area start tingling and whatnot. But with people with fibro, instead of saying stopping at the headache, they go the jaw ache, the neck ache, blah blah blah, and it just basically travels through the whole body, and it's like that 24/7, and it's non-stop. It's non-stop, and that's one of the reasons why sometimes I talk really fast. I can't, and sometimes I just won't say a word at all, because I can't. I really can't, and it's awful. It's like I have become a virtual recluse, really, because of my illness, and I used to be out and about all the time. I really used to be, but the last couple of years I haven't. But anyway, so and I suppose this channel and this video is one of my little outlets to get in touch with the outer world and things like that. So, but anyway, I've got to go now because it's going to tip it down a minute. It's very grey here. It's nice to have a bit of rain, so I don't have to water the plants and not worry about that. I fed them this morning, so but I need to get some more feed for them next week or so. But pardon me. And yes, so batten down the hatches and be careful with this bad weather that we're going to be getting over the next 24, 48 hours, 72 hours. About they've pardon me, they've cancelled the Gay Pride in Plymouth Gay Pride. They've cancelled Boardmasters or whatever it was down in Cornwall. They've cancelled a lot of stuff because of the weather. So yes, so stay safe and have a good weekend, and well, have a good few days, and I shall be back shortly with another video. Okay, so that was an awful smile for you there, but hey, I am Dracula's daughter and I can smile the way I want. Alright, love you lots, and thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe, and if you've got anything to say, or if you want me to talk about anything, just please just put it down there, or get in touch with me via Messenger or Twitter. I'm on there with my full name, which is on this site, and same with Facebook and Messenger. But if you are going to message me on Messenger and we're not Facebook friends, message me and then send me a message on Facebook itself saying that you've sent me a message, because then I can read it. So, And you've got my email address on here as well. So if you want to email me anything, just questions or whatever like that, and I'll try my best to answer them for you. Or any queries you have, let me know. Or if there's any topics you want me to cover, please let me know, and I shall endeavour to do my best. So with that, I must bid you adieu and be safe out there over the next couple of days, because the weather is going to be bad, because the birds are just flying away now. So it's quieting down with the birds, so I think it's coming in now. So anyway, so have a lovely couple of days, and I'll speak to you soon. Okay, oh, of course, and subscribe and share and like or unlike. You know, you don't have to like what I do. It's just one of those things, isn't it? Well, anyway, so speak to you all soon. Thank you. Bye bye.